So welcome to the show, Melissa Moon.
Hi.
Hi. So you have a little business here in town called Moon Healing Studios.
I sure do.
And you do wellness coaching and re-education. And we want to talk about this, and we're going to fill up this hour like it's no problem.
Perfect.
Like it's going to be pretty sick. Okay, so how new is your studio, first of all?
So I established in July of 2020.
Perfect.
But I've been working as a practitioner since January of 2020, and then went out on my own.
That's cool. And I was going to stop by your studio, but it didn't work out. Where is it?
I am right off of Bell Road, New Airport Road.
Yep.
Where the Ceronics building is, where all the beautiful ducks and
ponds and
walking trails, and by the Ridge
cool
Golf
place.
Course.
Yeah, that's a cool place.
It's a nice spot.
Okay, so just before we started, we were talking about the kind of things you do with wellness coaching. Healing's Evolved, right? And you mentioned the word re-education, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of loaded. And so let's unpack some of it. I'll let you start and just explain what sort of things you offer in your practice, like those specific things that we were talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the technology that I am practicing is called ELAN, which stands for Extraordinary Living Advanced Neurology. And those two things, they just go together so well, hand in hand.
Being neurology and living.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like neurology is living.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, it's the first thing that develops in the womb is our neurological system in our skin. So there's the science behind light touch, and that science behind light touch gets us connected into our sensories, it gets us connected into our limbic system, and the ELAN work is able to help people get out of that sympathetic windup. It's that fight or flight, right? I mean, these things these days, like sympathetic windup is great. You know, our sympathetics are wonderful for threats, right? If there was a bear.
Stress responses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're just helping people get on the table, get connected with breath and focus, which then ramps that down, takes those parasympathetics, ramps those up. And so it gets us more into rest and digest so that you can create skills in a really safe way. So
let me get my terminology straight.
Yeah.
Sympathetic is like stress response, and parasympathetic is the opposite of that?
Yeah. So sympathetic is fight or flight. And then parasympathetic is rest, digest is the easiest way to think of it.
What does that mean?
So rest, digest would be you're calm, you're relaxed in your body, you feel safe, and your body can go through all these different processes like digest food.
The opposite feeling of when somebody cuts you off on the road.
Right. Or if you see, that sympathetic, or if you see a bear, right? Your body does not need to be digesting food if you have an imminent threat. You want to be able to have blood going to your limbs so you can either run or you can fight.
That's why you get sick, like if you eat and then you have like an adrenaline rush.
Oh.
Right.
I don't know about that.
I think that's a thing. Like people get sick to their stomach when they get terribly scared.
Oh, yeah.
And like, oh my gosh, I just got to go puke.
Yeah.
They get that sick feeling.
It's a stress response for sure.
Yeah. And that really makes sense. And then another question I had was about, you said something about high touch, low something.
High touch, low force.
Right. So soft touch.
Yes.
But what does the high touch mean? I don't understand that. What is the high? What spectrum are we working on here? Is it like
a lot of touch?
Is it a lot, or is it like up towards your dome?
Yeah. So there's, yeah, that's interesting. That's just what it's been taught to me as. So when we do, it's actually really soft. So it's
probably a lot. I'm thinking
it's actually quite minimal to be honest.
Yeah.
So just like a cat or a dog, if you go to pet them, they where to go. They they're like, oh, they rear up.
Yeah.
In our nervous system, especially in the neck and down in the low, the sacrum and the tailbone, we have those cues.
Yeah.
And so that's what we consider when it's like high touch. Like I'm feeling along and I feel this rapport. And that rapport is like, oh, okay. And then they show up.
So even if you're not a cat person, you're still kind of a cat person.
Sure.
It probably made no sense to anybody.
Animals are just a great example because they show up. You can just feel it. You're like, oh, I know exactly where the dog or the cat really likes to be pet. So
an animal pets are also seems like a really good example of either being stressed out or and like, or relaxing, and there's like 100%, right?
Yeah,
It's like the cat's hissing or cuddling, and the dog's like sleeping or barking.
totally.
You know. Okay.
So that high touch,
Yeah.
the way I would equate it is, as I feel for rapport along these parts of the body, it's kind of like this, it just shows up. It's this sense of just kind of showing up there.
So how does that work? You get on the table, somebody who's never done this before, and you're like, I'm gonna touch your neck, right? Okay. And they're like, you are, and what's supposed to happen?
So when we connect with one another, I'm asking that person to just show up to the best of their ability with breath and like focus, and at some point a little bit of movement, because we are asking for sensory input and then motor output, and how well is your brain cell and your body cell connecting and relaying information. If there's some type of a distortion, there's going to be a distortion of what you perceive to be that spot that I'm asking you to show up in.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like I can ask people to breathe down in their tailbone,
Oh,
right?
that was interesting, because I tried that as you said it.
And some, you know you have a butt, you have a tailbone down
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
But
Like, I know what that is, facially.
sometimes could be like a big disconnect. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, breath stops like midway. Like they can't even get all the way down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think this makes sense to me, in terms of like getting a massage, right? And how relaxing that is. But you also like take part in that as the person who's being massaged, right?
a personal responsibility for showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me now that I apply it to something that I know. Because otherwise, like, if you're not participating, like, it could actually be painful. I mean, that, like, I'm not saying like massage should be painful. I'm just saying, like, if you're tense and somebody's like, you're not relaxing, like, with the program, like, it seems like it wouldn't work out so well.
Yeah, I mean, we want to all kind of be a part of the healing, right? So as a healing facilitator, we are encouraging people to show up in their personal responsibility for how their health is and how their life is showing up. And we see that reflect in the shape, tone, and tension of their body will reflect the shape, tone, and tension of their life. So yeah, so in like an example of a massage, it's more beneficial for you if you can be an active participant in the massage instead of just laying there and letting someone dig in you or whatever.
Yeah.
But to be able to get breath and be like, be exploratory. It's like, how can we open up the imagination with the inner sight inside?
Yeah.
We have a pineal gland that has rods and cones, just like our eyes that see outward have rods and cones. So it's like, what are we supposed to see
retinas,
within?
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that? Oh, I'm going to be on Google a lot.
And we play with this through like the self-care work that I teach through the evolutionary personal care, which is just a part of Elan. And it's really like getting your hands on your body, seeing if you can like get the sensory input and the motor output to work, and then getting really settled in maybe where the ease is in your body.
Right.
And
so as you as the practitioner, are you feeling for certain responses, or are you just trying to like inspire a response, or is it not none of those?
I'm observing to see what's showing up.
Right.
And then through what's showing up for the person and through like coaching on and off the table, like, what's this feel like versus here?
Yeah.
And then through breath and the energetics of being able to be connected with another person.
Right.
I can, for the most part, tell like, okay, this spot is a lot better than this spot. Like
So
you
it's
feel
kinda
a
like
lot safer
coach,
here.
like a coaching relationship.
Totally wellness coaching.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're spotting the person. Yeah, you're observing their form essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because I'm in no way trying to fix anybody. Like,
Okay, yeah.
don't come to me if you need something fixed.
Yeah.
But come to me if you need something to
If I need to kind of maybe have some insight as to like
like, how can I actually be responsible?
Oh yeah. So what types of maybe these aren't the right words, but like problems, ailments, issues.
Yeah,
do people?
that's a good question.
Yeah. So like, because right now I'm just still in my imagination. Like what?
Yeah.
What do people come to you with?
So
yeah.
my personal story, I went and saw my practitioners back in 2012. I had like a brand new baby, not a great relationship, pretty isolated, not feeling okay. Really stuck in my throat, like really stuck in my throat chakra. And all of a sudden, like woke up Tuesday afternoon, mind you, it's like a 7-month-old child. So it's like, I'm not going to look in the mirror all the time. But I glanced in the mirror and I saw I had about a 3-inch long bump that went past my jawline.
Wow.
And I lived with other people. I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me this?
That's crazy.
Like, where was this yesterday? And so I had this physical manifestation symptom that I couldn't ignore.
Right.
And so through that, I went to the doctor, and that was kind of a slow process. It was something that was filled up with fluid. So they actually weren't that concerned about it.
They're like, you got a little thing.
Yeah, just a little thing.
And it should be benign, but we're not exactly sure. And next patient.
Absolutely. Like we'll get you down the line. Like I ended up seeing an ENT, and thankfully it was just a salivary gland that was filled with blood, and it receded over time. But that time that it receded, I went and did talk therapy. And then my talk therapist said, hey, now that we've been focusing on like your shit, like let's let you focus on what's right in your body. And sent me to my practitioners, Andrew and Naomi Downey in Newcastle, and they own Graceful Health Chiropractic. They showed me Elon. And through the work with them for about a year's time frame, I saw this thing go down, down, down. And I also saw my life transform in regards
You
to
felt better.
my communication with who I wanted to be as a mother, who I wanted to be as a woman, who I wanted to be in a relationship and for myself, and was able to start stepping into my power. I had more of a spine. I had more ease in my body to actually address the things that I needed to address and use the symptoms as an opportunity for growth and movement forward.
Right.
Instead of like, just fix me and put me back to normal, like,
Right.
or put me back to my old self. And it's like, that doesn't exist.
Right. I think there's this this wish that once you get out of your comfort zone, like something disrupts you, you're like, I just want to go back to normal. It's like, well, that's in the past. You can't you're no longer that person. Therefore, that person is no longer the solution for you. You have to go through whatever you're going through and come out on the other side.
You have
It's either
now.
growth or death.
Yeah. And how can you do it gracefully?
Right.
Can you have enough skills inside of your body so you're not getting stuck? Like, we have a biology line, right? Or a biography line. And as the biography line goes up and down, we have times that have high peaks and we have times that have low peaks. And those low peaks tend to be stressful and they tend to be opportunities that get stuck inside of us because we don't know how to deal with it. We're like, we'll deal with that later.
I feel like it's find it interesting that you actually use both like the biology word on accident first, because it's like the common thread that I'm finding in this conversation already is like the relationship between your body and your life.
Absolutely.
Right. And so the fact that you said biology, but you're like, I mean, biography, but I'm like, well, it seems like the biology follows the biography.
They totally reflect one another.
Yeah.
And over time, if you don't have the skills to like work through stuff and you store it away for later, we start to hold tension. Just like if you held your arm like this for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
I saw a video on your website where you were explaining that.
Yeah, and
I didn't
it's
watch the whole
huge.
thing, but I was like, all right, 30 seconds is enough, lady.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm ready to let go of this now.
Well, imagine if you're doing that in your body subconsciously for 30 years.
Right.
It's going to take away, first of all, vital energy from other things that you could be doing. And it's also going to create, over time, inflammation, right? Because that kind of thing, it starts to distort the body and create problems.
I feel like I hold tension in between my shoulder blades.
Sure. It's a big spot for people.
I feel like maybe it's been like at least a few months, maybe even 6 months, like time goes by, but that I've been like consciously kind of like throughout my day noticing when I'm tense and like breathing it out. Right. Like,
Nice.
cause that was like for a while, I was like, man, what? Like, I think there was one time where I had such a bad like knot in my back that it was like unbearable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't let this happen again. Like, I can't believe how painful this is. Like, it's really like intense.
What'd you do to heal yourself?
Well, I went and got a massage, like thinking that would help. And I think it like maybe did, but like it was also pretty like, it felt clumsy. And so I don't know whether that helped or not, but ultimately I made a decision. And the decision was, I'm not going to hold stress in my body like that because it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I had to figure out like, how am I going to do that? And so I may have like Googled something and saw like, oh, breathing, or I just kind of even knew like, well, maybe you should just try to relax more. And I knew that, breathing was associated with relaxing, especially when you're intentional with it. So even like as we're sitting here and I'm telling you a story, like I breathe out at the end because it's like, there was like this moment of like, I have to like communicate this thing, and there's like a moment of tension, and then now I can be done with it. And I don't have to hold on to that. And like I can let go of it and hand it off to somebody else.
Right. Just like letting that fist go after 30 seconds. So we're retraining the nervous system so that when you're out in life and you're like, man, feeling not that great. Cool. You have skills.
Yeah.
You have skills that you learned on the table.
Yeah.
Safely.
Yeah.
With super like open permission to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It gets uploaded in your prefrontal cortex and you can take that out into your life.
That's your logical.
Yes, prefrontal is your decision making.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's great. So since we kind of were talking about breathing.
And just to piggyback off of other people who come in.
Yes.
So a lot of it is personal growth. People are like, I'm in a moment. I need to move forward. I don't even know what to do.
How do they know to come to you? How does that work?
I talk a lot.
Yeah.
I'm pretty plugged into the community.
Okay. You have friends.
And I have friends, and I'm part of, some bigger healing, like some beautiful women who are doing some amazing things in the community. So just having conversations with them, and they're looking to grow. So there's that. And,
Yeah.
But it's, there's definitely word of mouth happening because
I guess I'm more, that's all that I was asking that question, but I was also asking it in the way of how would somebody know to go to a person like you? Right?
Yeah.
Because I've never heard about Elan.
Yeah.
Right? Or, I like kind of knew about kind of knew what Reiki generally is, like if I'd be like, it's energy healing.
And that's becoming a bigger conversation. Like in the East Coast, Reiki practitioners are being welcomed into hospitals. Like I've been to the hospital and I've done Reiki on a heart surgery patient before she went into surgery.
Wow.
So there's that. So we're just very much on the forefront of what wellness care is.
Yeah. And like how to define it and like
people want to be cared for. People don't want to just be fixed anymore. People are not,
a machine.
There's less faith in the medical, like Western model because people are just like, you go to a doctor, they have 4 patients in 15 minutes. You're like, where is the care actually happening? So as people show up in my office, they're being cared for. Like,
I remember being like 16 or 17 and having like terrible shoulder pain. Like I thought like I injured myself somehow. Yeah. And I went to the doctor. I'm like, I don't know, maybe you should look at it. And it was like, here's some, like, you should take ibuprofen. And I was like, okay, I could see that. But then it's like, I left and then I got a bill. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just got a bill for you telling me to take ibuprofen? Like,
yep. You're lucky you didn't take it from him. It would have been a much bigger bill.
I'm not that dumb. But it's like, oh, here's $500 ibuprofen. You're like,
yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
So, yeah.
People want new ways of being healed.
Absolutely.
Or at least ways that, there's all sorts like cancer patients, right? That are, I could tell you absolutely 100% right now, if I was diagnosed with cancer, that like going to the doctor would not be my only like action item.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Be like, no, like this is going to be like a well-diversified portfolio of like conquerhood. Like,
It kind of strikes me as like Western medicine is very scientific and science requires only objective reality. And so you kind of by necessity you can't have the subjective, otherwise it's not science, right?
The measure
But as humans, we are objective and subjective. Like our story has to be involved in everything we do. And so if we're only relying on the objective, we're missing like half of what we are. And while that may work for the half of us that is objective, like our story is still like an integral part of us. And if we're not integrating like a solution for our whole being, then it's not going to do as well.
It's a partial solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was some Oracle stuff right there. That was great.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like Western medicine, alternative, healthcare. There's amazing people out there doing amazing things. If
Right.
my arm gets ripped off, like
Right.
I want to go see that doctor for trauma care.
Right.
Like they are gods in that sense, but they are really not that great at chronic stuff. Like
Right.
they're
Yeah.
not taking care of people that need to be taken care of in a different way. It's
Right.
not a whole body approach. And healing and curing are not synonyms.
Right.
It's a totally different world
Yep.
between those two things. So, the action for personal responsibility is going to drive somebody if they're really solid with their body wisdom, that they can take the outside information, which is like educated intelligence, which can be corruptible, but also have enough innate intelligence, inner wisdom, inner intuition, loud enough so they can actually like create a filter and find out what's true for them.
Yep.
Then it gives people an evolutionary like foothold to say like,
An
okay,
advantage.
it's
Yeah.
it's a total advantage to
Yeah.
be able to say, all right, the doctor gave me this information. I can take it with a grain of salt.
That is absolutely true. I actually, when I was 14, I had an accident where my buddy was like teaching me how to make rockets with like plastic bottles, like right here on the table with an air compressor. And like, I tried it and it blew up and it like the shrapnel of the plastic like cut my eye in half. Like, so like hardcore, like you
Yeah.
could actually probably see my
Yeah,
eye
you
right
got
now.
a
It does
little-
not look normal. So
I can see the little scar.
yeah, it's like it went through my eyelid and everything. But my point is, so there was like that first initial emergency surgery to like basically stitch my eyeball back together, and then a handful of years later, maybe 5 to 7 years later, I had another surgery to basically get cataract surgery. Basically get cataract surgery, and they were like explaining my options, like, well, we can put an implant of a lens, just like a typical cataract surgery, where you the lens in your eye, which is what helps you focus, gets replaced with an artificial one. And I was kind of like, I had already tried all of these other lens options that they had available technologically, and I didn't like it because it gave me one focal length out of this eye, but then this eye could then focus near and far and whatever I wanted, and I couldn't stand that. So I actually said, well, take the lens out of my eye because you're telling me it's a risk that the existing one can fall back and hit my retina and cause all sorts of terrible problems. So take it out, but I don't want you to put another one in. And they're like, what? I'm like, I don't want you to put anything in me.
Yeah.
And they're like, but you'll be able to see better. I'm like, will I? Like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good right now. You just tested me. I have better than 20/20 vision when I use both of my eyes. Like, yes, if I only use my bad eye, I see terribly. But, I don't want you to implant something in me that I now have to live with if I don't like it.
Yeah. Because
Then I need another surgery to get it gone.
it's like, what does it take to undo
done.
that?
I was so done.
Yeah.
And my point of that story is to relate to what you were saying about using your intuition and your kind of like your internal compass to contend with the external information that's being supplied to you, and how, like, honestly, I haven't regretted that decision, and it's been like 10 years.
And it's a powerful tool
You know what I'm saying?
to give people that, like, I'm teaching my girls how to reference their own bodies, especially when they get hurt or if there's a decision to be made. Like, I'm giving them power by saying, like, well, what is it that you think? How does that feel in your body when
Yeah.
you think about that? Where does it take you? Does it like get stuck anywhere? So that they're ideally like dropping this tension out of their system so it doesn't get stuck and loaded, and they get an opportunity to like work through stuff.
Yeah, it's like, what do you think about it and what do you feel about it? And then those are often two different things.
Absolutely two different things.
But they can work together if you give them enough time.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
attention.
emotion is just merely energy and motion, and feelings is what we make up about it in regards to like how it's flowing through our body. Is it free? Is it blocked? Is it being
That's
redirected?
like when somebody gives you the creeps or like a weird
Yeah.
feeling, and you're like, that's, like you said, energy, and like something is kind of around you, and you're like, this is not right. That's your gut feeling working for you. And sometimes it takes like a day or two to like
Get it through.
get it gone. Like,
Yeah.
oh God, that's like sticking to me. It's gross.
Totally.
That's
Totally.
really interesting.
And that's why on the table, the integral neurology, like someone comes into me to see me for care, it's called an entrainment because you're entraining to that energy. We're all frequency, we're all energy, we're all like instruments, right?
Vibing.
Again, the shape, tone, intention of your body reflects the shape, tone, intention of your life. And we can say shape, tone, intention because we're like...
I see JP over here. He's like, yeah, man.
We're plucking chords, right? We're just trying to tune it up. Like you want to be the best sounding guitar you can be.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? And then if you're in that harmony, like it's just life becomes easier. It's like, do we need to be running around putting out fires all the time? Like that's just not a fun way to live.
Right.
Can you find a little more ease in your life and like actually flow through different states of consciousness and not be stuck in one thing?
Right.
Or stuck in fear.
Have flow.
Yeah.
Have flow.
Absolutely.
Can we talk about breathing now?
Yeah, let's talk about breathing.
So Charlie has been doing some Wim Hof method for like a few months now.
Yeah, since right before Christmas.
Cool.
It was just one of those things where it's like, I heard an interview with him. I don't remember. I listened to like 3 that week because he was doing his podcast rounds or whatever. And so it was like, I'm going to give it a try. And I've tried it before and I've stuck with it for like a week or, but mainly because of the cold shower aspect that he brings in. It's like, yeah, I'll do that for a week. I'm not going to keep doing that,
But you did.
But I did this time.
Cool.
So, and it's been like, there have been a couple of times where like my family would get a cold and I would feel it coming on.
We can just say it. Everybody got COVID and Charlie didn't.
Yes.
Awesome. Congratulations.
But it's like I was starting to feel, I don't know if it was this or not because it's like, but maybe I had it. I don't know. I haven't done all of the the reason I'm hesitant to say something is that I don't know that I didn't have COVID earlier.
Right. Because if you test negative, you test negative.
Right.
But the point is you didn't have COVID.
You didn't manifest it.
You didn't have the illness.
In symptoms.
Right.
Whether you had the virus, you were infected by the virus or not is not what we're saying. I'm saying you didn't have COVID.
Right. Well, and I guess what I'm saying is that I don't know if that's because of the Wim Hof method or if I got COVID sometime last year and it was a mild case and therefore I was immune to it when it hit the rest of my family.
But yeah, it is true that you were doing the Wim Hof method and you didn't get COVID.
Right. That disclaimer aside.
Exactly. So.
And then also, what are your feelings?
It's not a claim. It's just what happened.
Yeah.
Everybody else got it.
And what are your feelings around whether or not you had gotten COVID or would get it or not get it?
I don't care.
That's such a Charlie
and
answer.
So
I love it.
It was like if I got like. I'm kind of very data driven. And so I was looking at like risk by age and I was like, I don't care if I get COVID. The chances of me like having a really rough time of it and having bad case is less than me getting in an auto accident because I drive 25,000 miles a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And so could it be that your simple thought process and personal beliefs and feelings around it also could have led to, I didn't get it.
Right.
Like there was a situation where I totally could have gotten it and these were the actual, this was the outcome.
So are you talking about like the psychological effects of like what manifests in your body?
Like epigenetics, taught by Bruce Lipton.
Yeah.
It's what really is influencing how our body works or like psychoneuroimmunology. The power of our brain actually dictates more of how our immune system is functioning.
Right.
I wish this stuff was like, we had more like way to measure that.
Well, it's getting measured. I mean, up until this point, it's like, we just didn't know, like medical knowledge was like so obsessed with like the trauma factor, which is important. It's like, okay, if you're going to bleed out from like your arm getting torn off, that's first and foremost what needs to be taken care of. You know, who cares if you have chronic back pain if you're going to bleed out in the next hour?
Yeah.
But I think that like, there over the last couple of years are a bunch of studies into like the more long-term chronic stuff. So like Wim Hof is working with Harvard and doing a bunch of studies on like, okay, how does breath work help control your nervous system and your immune response. I know that there's MAPS is dealing with psychedelics and how that helps with
Is that the
like mindset and
project that Tim Ferriss is on, or no?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's funding that one. So it seems like they're starting to actually like move. Okay, we've got the trauma aspect, like pretty much. Unless you're dead on scene, like we can do a lot for you now.
Yeah.
Let's move into let's pay attention to what other people have like what you've been doing for years, and like see if we can integrate it. I mean, you're being asked to go into a hospital to kind of like, hey, we're really good at like putting in a heart stent, but let's get the story straight. Let's let's work with the rest of the body.
Yeah.
So
to totally dismiss that we have energetic fields, it, like just first and foremost, like there's organization
right.
in us, and our cells are pretty much a huge community. We have on a conservative number, we have 50 trillion cells in our body.
Right.
And for every single for every single cell, there's like maybe up to 10 foreign cells that are associated with it.
Right.
So I mean, 1 trillion to wrap your head around, but like 50 trillion, turn that into what? And each of these cells has their own system,
Organelles and like systems, and it's wild.
It's like taking us and making 50 trillion of us inside of our body. So we are infinitely fractal.
Yep.
And so all these things have to be working
You just blew
in
JP's
harmony.
mind. You just blew his mind. I literally saw his.
It's trippy. And Bruce Lipton talks about this too. He's like, we have to have, if you were to like open your body up and get a microscope down in there and look at this, he's like, you would see it like a metropolis.
Oh, yeah.
All working in community together. And if something in the community isn't right, you're going to have
Factions.
dis-ease. And we see that in a bigger sense. Like, look at our cities.
Right.
Look at these things that could be equated to the health of our world.
Right.
And then you just kind of take that and you work it all the way down to our body. So it's like on my website, I talk about revitalizing, transforming the cells of humanity. It's like we're working on a cellular level here.
Yeah, I hear that. I feel that. That's like divine orchestration.
Totally.
All that working together like that is like, cannot wrap my mind around that either.
No, it's such a wild notion. I mean, thank goodness there is some science to like back that up.
Right.
Right.
But it's so new and there's no money in breath work.
Right.
For, research.
There will be.
I mean, very little.
I mean, what they've been able to prove with the Wim Hof method is
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
astounding.
It's
like when
beautiful
you
that
have
he's
Harvard
available
professors
for
being
that.
like, yeah, so we measured this actually.
But then like Bruce Lipton got kicked out of Stanford because he was trying to teach epigenetics.
Right. Which
So
is weird. Yeah.
He's like, I can't go back
Is
to
it
the
weird?
old model.
Is it weird
okay,
for
it's
somebody
not-
to get kicked out of
it's not
university
weird.
for teaching?
Right. Right.
But it's beautiful that these things are now opening up because there's a call for it. Because
Yeah.
people want to be cared for. They want someone to greet them. Just notice, like, if they're having a good day, having a bad day, great. Lead the story at home. Get on the table. Thank you for showing up.
Well, it's like everything works like that. Like even like what we do in marketing, it's like, look, there's like a pretty wholesome way to approach initiating a conversation with somebody, and it doesn't have to be like a spammy email campaign,
Yeah.
right?
People can smell out authenticity.
Right.
And at this point, people have no time for bullshit.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
No.
Wow. So do you do Wim Hof? Have you?
I have done it.
Yeah. What was it
Especially-
like for you?
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Playing in the shower a lot with it, and then I do want to get one of those cold plunge.
Oh yeah, like
That's Scott Estrada and like the whole like.
Is it like a special thing, or can you just get like a horse trough?
Oh, you could totally get a horse trough
Right,
and throw some water in it, but they have this beautiful like special filtration system and all this stuff. It's just like one of those bucket
fancy.
list things where
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to have my sauna and I want to have my cold plunge
Like
so
your-
I can like go back and forth because there's
Like, don't tell Haley, but I want my own float tank.
oh, she knows.
Yeah.
I'm like, girl, when are you getting that cold plunge? She's like, just wait. And I'm like, "Ugh, anytime, I'm ready. But there's power to that in being able to help. It's a nervous system regulating exercise.
Right.
Can I get my breath going? Can I get this oxygenation? Can I get this full breathing in the lungs, out the lungs, dropping tension while you're doing it and there's just something that switches over and you're like, okay, now I can jump into cold water, piece of cake.
Yeah.
It's almost like
You do
you're
it first,
welcoming it.
Well, now, so I started out like ending every shower with, so I do the Wim Hof method, and then I'd end every shower with like, 2 or 3 minutes of cold water. And then now it's like, I do the Wim Hof breathing thing, and then I take a cold shower. And it's like, it's really interesting because you feel cold before you do the Wim Hof method. And then afterwards you're like, oh, this water feels like soft. It's weird. It's like, yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So.
And breath work is just one of the oldest healing techniques.
Right.
Doctor,
I mean,
Get
having
oxygen.
problems.
shallow
Have
breathing,
you tried breathing, son?
mouth breathing, all these things, like your life could be changed if you like shut your mouth and taped it shut for like your night of sleep.
Right.
People wake up and they're like, whoa.
I got
Yep.
a headache.
Right?
Just thinking about that. Oh, no, you're saying it's a good thing?
It's a good thing,
Oh.
like proper breathing.
Yeah.
So the example of the sleeping thing is you shouldn't sleep with your mouth open. So I like go and close my children's mouths before I go to bed.
Shh, child.
I do. I'm like, shut that mouth. Because it's important. It's actually an important thing.
Right, because you actually have to suck harder, right? Like to get it in.
Yeah, it initiates actual full lung capacity. Like it's taking it all the way down. And we need to make sure we get breath just down, and we got to use our lungs. So if using your lungs is going to happen when you come see me on the table, awesome. Like come, if that's the moment that you're going to do it for the week, great. But I can guarantee you over a period of time, as the skills develop, you will just notice these things as you go throughout your life and really start to implement them.
Your star clients are going to show up fully oxygenated.
Hell yeah.
Like, Melissa, you wouldn't believe it.
Super connected, eyes bright, ready. It's incredible to see the change. And people get off the table and are like, I've never even thought to breathe like that.
Right.
Just teaching them something new.
Isn't there like that technique where it's like, when you watch a child breathe, they breathe in their stomach, right?
Get all the way
because it's
down.
like how you're supposed to.
Right.
Yep.
And they don't have like enough stress in their life to warrant like a physiological change in how they breathe.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
they
like,
just,
like adults,
little
you're like,
less
take a deep
trauma.
breath, and they're like,
yeah. I mean, some little kids are funny like that, and they will. It's like, come and breathe. I'll get them on the table and breathe here. They want to breathe and bring it all the way up. But it's like, but their breath is actually existing throughout their entire spine.
Right.
And so it's like I said earlier, like how do you breathe down in your tailbone? Well, there's no lungs there, but I can get breath into my fingertips. I can get breath into my toes. So especially like through an injury, I can take breath and be connected into that injury and get through things so much faster.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
is there anything that we haven't talked about that is like in your line of service? Because we talked about breathing and touch, and light touch, and spotting people, coaching them. Yeah. Do you have regulars?
I do.
Yeah.
I definitely have
Is
people.
that like a thing that people do?
So personally, I've been in care since 2012, and I think yesterday I had my 413th entrainment. That's just on paper. That doesn't include like being in class and
Right.
playing around with other practitioners and
Can you
doing my own
entrain
stuff.
yourself?
I do entrain myself.
It sounds funny, but it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Or my 5-year-old, she'll like to play around with me and entrain me. Yeah. She'd like, breathe here, mom. She's like,
Yeah.
breathe up the light, breathe out the love.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
so cool.
It's so sweet to see.
Oh, that's amazing.
I was entrained all through my pregnancy with, her name's Everest, with Everest. And it was an incredible experience just to have so much more ease and like space in my body. Every time I got off the table with her, it was just like, there was just another inch of like, expansiveness inside of me for her to be comfortable.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if like a lot of that is like tension related too, like just being tight. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like carrying a baby's no joke.
No.
You're
Well,
walking around all those months.
Oh yeah. There's so much that, there's
Yeah.
a lot that's being asked of bodies in that regard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife is 31 weeks pregnant right now.
Nice.
And she's like, I want to be done. It's like, it's just so, it's like, it hurts to put my shoes on. And, it's just like, she's dealing with the other kids, and it's just, it's all of it's growing a whole nother human being while making sure the other ones in the household are still alive too. And it's just like, it's a big job.
It's a huge job.
So
Maybe you guys should train your kids to entrain her.
Yeah, there we go.
Absolutely.
Breathe in the light.
Yeah. Yeah, she was so sweet when she was doing that.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
girl.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Is there anything else we should say about all this?
Well, so
Like,
as humans, we really like information. So you were
Yes.
talking about science, right?
Yeah.
So when people come and initially come in for care, I have them fill out history paperwork. We have a really nice discussion and just talk about health, wellness, healing goals, like what's going on in life. So we get a register of that, and I've seen people for emotional stuff, wanting to move forward,
Yeah.
some addiction recovery, pain in the body. So it kind of runs the whole gamut. And so they fill out this quality of life survey. And in the quality of life survey, we address physical, emotional, mental health, stress health, life enjoyment, and quality of life. And so the first 4 outside of the quality of life have 10 different things that we're asking in it. So physical isn't just like, do you feel pain in your body? But it actually is. So that's like 1/10 of what we're asking when it comes to your physical stuff. So same thing with mental, emotional, stress, that sort of thing. And so what we see is we take the numbers at day 1, and then we do progress assessments throughout care. So anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks is the first progress assessment, 6 months, and then a year. And so we're able to take that information and see what the perception of life and what their body is telling them.
whoa.
And so we start to see these numbers change and fluctuate. And within the first 6 to 8 weeks, on average, physically wise, people are feeling 21% better.
I can imagine.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said 21% better on average?
That's the average. And this is 20 years of collected information.
Right.
Yep.
It kind of seems like it's weird that this is a new-ish. I don't want to even call it new if it's not, but
It's not. I mean, if you really think about it, it's like it's
getting more popular.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it kind of like the way you describe it seems like, well, everybody should be well.
But are you well on that
Right.
wellness to illness continuum?
Right.
Can you be well and have no symptoms? I know some ill people and they
You know
are
what I'm
not
saying, though?
symptomatic.
Like everybody should feel good and
Of course. It's our birthright to feel right and good and comfortable in our body.
yeah. I don't know. I think the way I'm thinking about it is like I'm really happy that this is a thing that is getting more popular, right?
Me too.
Because like I said, like there are a lot of people with a lot of different problems, and maybe a lot of the problems could be helped, right?
And a lot of the problems have answers that you know
Right.
already.
Right. But it
is
sounds
it clear
like a discovery
enough?
process too.
Super discovery process.
But like people aren't discovering on their own necessarily.
No. I mean, just like I
There's
think
a lot of work to do.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's what this whole like plane of existence is. If you're here and you
Yeah.
don't think that this plane of existence is not work, like it is it is so work and it is always going to be work. I have
Work and struggle.
Yeah, but with Elon, what I've noticed in my life and my practice members' lives is that things can be more graceful and things can be more easy.
Yeah.
And you get the opportunity to say like, oh man, I get to feel these feelings.
Yeah.
Like my mom
The
passed
permission.
the permission to do that.
Yeah.
Or, I see people on a continual basis, they explain and tell me stories about all kinds of personal stuff, and to be there to be witness for each other and give them permission to like feel exactly what they're feeling. I mean,
Right.
that's huge for most people to have that safe space in order to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes a person, like, let's say they don't grant themselves permission to be their own safe space, right? I would actually, if I had to categorize myself, I would say I'm actually an introvert and I spend most of my time in my inner world. And that can be a really tough reality to contend with if you aren't granting yourself permission to have your inner world be a safe space, right? Because then it's just kind of hell, right? Or it could be chaos and just like I have these issues, but like I don't even want to like address them. And then it's like now it's this dialogue between you and yourself, and that's just like kind of insane, you know? That's great.
And then with Elon, I'm I'm just helping point out the fact that you have ease.
Yeah.
You're alive. You have ease in your body. So where is it? And can we give you an anchor to where home is? Like home is like, for me, it's usually in my belly button. I can get breath and I can get focus there. If I'm having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, I can like take it down to pretty much minutes instead of being like succumbing to it for, an extended period of time. Because it's like, okay, I'm safe. Like I'm safe. Like I know this is a good spot. I know that I can tap in here and know that like I'm okay.
And is that actual act entrainment?
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
That's part of it.
Okay.
That's,
okay. No, I'm
that's
asking 'cause
definitely
I don't
part
know.
of it. The entrainment part, like me as the practitioner,
Yeah.
is I can't take you anywhere that I haven't been safely.
Yeah.
So in that regards, I'm going to always be mindful of that. And we will entrain to each other's energies. I mean, there's
Yeah, that
and
makes
it's,
sense.
and it's different states of consciousness. Like you walk into a room,
Yeah.
if you know what it feels like to entrain to a room situation. Like the
Yeah.
shift of energy, or somebody
Yeah,
walks
yeah,
in,
yeah.
you're like, whoa,
Yeah. Good or bad.
who's that person?
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a manner of starting to recognize these different states.
So how would you help somebody like you said your belly button and so I'm trying to relate that. So how might somebody find is that like, how do you explain that? Is that it's like a spot? Is it like and how do you go about finding the spot? I mean, obviously they can come to you, right?
Yeah.
But like if they're curious on their own, like they're sitting here listening to the show, like how might you even discover that?
Well, if you go on my website, there's a great little pop-up that comes on, and I'm going to be posting a video, like a special video
Yeah.
to show people just that specific, like foundational,
Okay.
how do I get my hands on my body and find connection, and where can I find the best place?
Okay, so is that it? It's just a place. There's no name for it, right? It's just like,
I mean,
hey,
unless you want to give it a name.
like I don't know, like
Yeah.
Home.
Home.
Like
I
yeah,
think.
called it,
I mean,
yeah.
I find it that's the best word for me is home for myself. But I get people. So evolutionary personal care is part of that homework of like getting people laying on the table. Laying face up can be really vulnerable, but as long as you feel safe to do that, you can work along the midline.
Yeah.
So if we imagine our palms as lenses, we have palm over palm, hand over these different chakra points or like points that go up the midline, and finding like, can I get breath and focus here? Okay. What's online? What feels good? So then
and,
we
like,
start
using
to
your hands is like the kind of like
the guide.
okay.
Yeah.
And is this? I'm exploring these ideas because
Yeah.
a lot of it's somewhat new to me. Like, is this similar to like, let's say you have an athlete, maybe like a baseball player, and he like holds the bat in a very, very specific way, where it's like, no matter how many people try to coach him out of holding the bat that way, like he's always going to hold the bat that way, but like he hits the hell out of the ball. You know what I'm saying? Because like that spot right there where his knuckles wrap around and it's like the tips of his fingers grip, it's like that's home on that bat. Is it kind of like that? Or
Yeah.
like getting like the seat in your car and like the mirror, like and everything just exactly perfect to like form to you to where you just feel completely like nobody can fuck with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're just, bam, like I got or like sprinters who do like weird rituals. Like I say weird, but if it's effective,
Sure.
do it, Okay.
Absolutely. And when we get those points when we get that opportunity to find that in our body, I think it's such a powerful tool, because then before a person's kind of working outward, right? Like all the stuff's happening in life and they're kind of like extending themselves outward.
Okay.
It's like, well, what looks different if you bring it back in? So this is a manner of just like allowing people to bring it back in and realize like, this is what you can control. You can control your breath.
So are you involved with, or do you know people who do this sort of like comfort with like spaces and environments? Right. Like, so like, I'm assuming like if I were to walk into your studio, I would kind of like get that a good vibe. Right. Or like if you walk into like if I go into Haley's Float Center, like there's a vibe there.
Totally.
Like kudos to you, Haley. Like you kicked ass on that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
But some places you walk in and there's no vibe.
all the feedback I've gotten
Right.
from my studio is like, wow, this feels like home.
Right.
And
So-
I'm very Taurus like that. So I
Yeah.
just want people to come in and feel cushy. I want you to like go in my in my cabinets. Like I want you to like get in there, you know, and that's just how I am too. It's like I
Yeah.
love going into a place and feeling like really comfortable. So it's a home space with multiple tables and people are encouraged to come and work together.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a real thing. That is absolutely a real thing.
I mean, it's an encouraged group community healing experience. Like I was in care last night and there was 5 of us on tables and then we're working together. And it's
nice.
cool. Like someone else's work is like encouraging my work and I'm giving them permission to do the thing and breathe and bring, you know, any kind of movement or like vocals that need to come out. But it's a group thing that is really powerful.
I feel like this is kind of one of the, I don't mean to like belittle it by calling it an industry, but like it's one of these areas of life or being, or it's one of these practices where it's like, there's like, it seems like people who are like expert, like advanced, really into it. And then there's like a whole lot of people who just don't even know about it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And this is me doing this. It's like
Yeah.
I honor the fact that like I'm in the beginning
Yeah.
of what's happening. There's a few of us, like there's a great practitioner down in Sacramento.
Yeah.
There's 2 of us here in Auburn alongside me. I have a friend, another practitioner up in Southlake.
Okay.
I think somebody's doing it in Reno. So yeah, I mean, it's
And
very,
what does the future look like to you with this type of work? Like, is it gonna get more popular? And yeah, what do you feel there? Like, what are you kind of sensing on that?
we're working on digital content
Yeah.
because it's so like to be on the table, you got to come to the table.
Yeah,
Right.
You know, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility of people flying into the Auburn airport and coming and seeing me.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I like
Yeah.
that. Keep doing that type
You
of
know,
thinking. I like that.
I mean, and people like Tony Robbins does a similar form of what I'm offering at my
Like,
studio.
does as in gets worked on?
Yes.
Okay.
Like entrainments.
Yeah.
It's not specifically the same, but it's in the same arena.
Yeah.
Got
So
it.
there's other practitioners doing amazing magical work in this regards. It's a little bit different, and I
Yeah.
don't want to get into that because it's kind of
fine.
in a different industry of verbiage. But
Yeah.
we're creating digital content to be able to share at least the EPC work, the evolutionary personal care work, and that's easily shared over a video, phone conversation, that sort of thing. I have a vision of getting into a different state and opening up another space. As I continue to work, I can work towards teaching credentials. So
Right.
there are these things in the works where it's like,
Right.
I want to help spread it
Yeah.
and be an active participant in sharing it.
Right.
But it takes practitioners doing it for a certain period of time
Right.
and being able to talk
Right.
coherently about it and teach it
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah. I like that.
But it's super teachable.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I want to try it soon.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah.
I'd love to show you.
Get my spot.
There you go.
I don't know. Very good. And what is your website?
So my website is mlmoonstudio.com and Instagram is mlmoon_studio. And then Facebook is mlmoonstudio.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.